If you have a loose or sagging canvas, pour a little bit of room temperature water on the back and massage the water into the thread, and it'll tighten it up like a drum. I worked in art galleries in the late 80s, early 90s down in Soho, and I learned a lot about hanging and presenting groupings of paintings and drawings. When you hang groups of dissimilar sizes, like this arrangement in our apartment, it's important to choose a keystone, one piece which will sort of set the tone for everything else. In this case, it's the small Gary Steffen painting at the top on the right. I generally keep the larger works in the center and then step or radiate outward. And don't put too much space between them. The space in between should be about the same as the width of the mat around the drawing or painting. For lighting, beware of hot spots at the top of the painting, like the one on the left. You want to aim the light lower as to just brush the top of the painting, like the one on the right. When hanging a show, create a center through line to which everything conforms. Here's a painting of mine from 1997 on the right, with a Whistler etching on the left, and you can see that the center of each is exactly the same. Frames not only create clean presentation, they also protect edges during transport and storage. For my work, we do a simple flat-faced frame with a 1/4 inch space between the image and the inside of the frame, as if the painting is floating. I like a very plain wood or a dull metal leaf on the face, and on the sides a mix of raw umber and raw sienna. I am not a painter. I'm a failed magician who paints. That distinction is important to me. Sneaking the word failed in there has been a kind of truth for me for as far back as I remember. True like ice, like fire. I started drawing at 10 years old, but before that wanted to be a stage magician. However, my big dopey hands prevented me from performing convincing sleights. Yet even today, I am still a card-carrying member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I go to conventions, and I spent a good deal of time in the stage magic capital of America, Las Vegas. When I was 8 and 9 years old, I did magic shows for my family and friends. And then I was hired to do a birthday party gig. So my mother sewed me a royal blue cape, which I wore. And I decided it was time to build a mystical vanishing box. So I took an old cardboard box, painted it candy apple red, and then painted an elaborate green dragon on the door. Somehow I knew about complementary colors even then. And then it came time to test the trick. I forced my little brother into the box, closed the lid, and said a few words. And poof, he vanished. Have you seen my brother? He's gone. I believed completely that he vanished. And my friends played along. Have you seen your brother? And by now, he was starting to cry in the box. And then my father walked in. Brian, have you seen your brother? He's gone. Even my father played along. My commitment was so resolved that other people around me committed, even for just a minute. And that was my first painting lesson. I believed a lie, not intellectually, but in my heart. Let me tell you something. When standing wearing a cape in front of a bunch of kids laughing and throwing hamburger at you is not enough of a hint, then you're going to become 12 feet tall and bulletproof. There are many things to fear in life. Disease, plane crashes, bagel pizza, but a fear of failure has no upside. Come over here. I have something to show you. Ah, quinacridone red. That cool, transparent red. The color of azaleas on a cold Charleston morning. The color of rhubarb pie and soft kisses. I like to mix quinacridone red with raw sienna to get that mineral color of Edouard Vuillard. Vuillard lived with his mother, a dressmaker, until he was 60 years old. All of his paintings reflect the world around him. Interior spaces adorned in intricate decorative patterns. This painting is called The Chat from 1893. He brings us into the intimacy of a room in which a mother and daughter are quietly discussing something. He's lying to us, but he believes the lie in his heart. This isn't a real room with living people, but creamy dollops of oil paint organized into a thing that we bring our bodies to. We stand in the exact same spot that the 25-year-old Vuillard did when he painted the picture 125 years ago. The woman and her daughter are simultaneously liberated from time, yet stuck in it. They will never die, but neither will they inhale the brief fragrance of having lived. The subject of this painting isn't really the chat between the persons, but the relationship between the white of the girl's dress to the white of the flower pot, and the woman's black dress to the black blanket on the bed behind her. The painter sets up a little solar system of inner conversations within the vacuum-sealed painting. Trying to find a narrative numbs us to the quiet beauty that is being transmitted. Beauty is fleeting and sometimes painful. What beauty is not is explainable. Just because something can't be explained doesn't mean it has no value. Vuillard simply painted what he knew: people in rooms. Of artistic progress, Vuillard said, you get there in a flash or with old age. Some artists are masters of the galaxy, and others manufacture a galaxy in a teacup. If you want to do this thing we do for life, then make your own tiny cosmos and live in it. All of the artists who interest me are ones who nail their foot to the floor so that they spend the rest of their lives walking around in tiny circles. At the center of that circle is one question: are you making art, or are you trying to manufacture a state of lucidity and trying to keep it around for as long as possible? If you're making art, you're doomed. I nailed my foot to the floor in coastal South Carolina 42 years ago, and it will provide me with a lifetime of content. Where I grew up, people didn't ask what you thought, but where you were from. Not what town or street, but what patch of shade under what tree. Southerners are natural-born extremists because we have to resist the image of the banjo-plucking mouth-breather and tear down the moss-draped mythology of a place gone with the wind. That's why the South produces so many storytellers, artists, musicians, and eccentrics, because we have ghosts to push back against. Art requires friction. The term regional is a lazy term used by outsiders, a chew toy for critics and collectors who need to limit a painting's scope as insular or folksy. To a landscape painter, region has no bearing on the work at all, because they are just painting what they know. This is a feature, not a bug. I don't paint South Carolina. I manufacture a place, and South Carolina becomes it. This landscape painting of mine isn't just about loblolly pines and mud and light. It's about that blocky green plug of 2-inch thick oil paint holding dominion in that shallow space It's about different things coexisting in one place. This painting isn't about the fugitive effects of light marinating in deep southern humidity. It's about the inter-conversation between many tones of yellow. That's enough in my little galaxy. Trying to get a work of art is greedy. Maybe we shouldn't try to understand everything and just let things wash over us. A daffodil's only story is the story of yellow.